Vinay Kumar, sir.
Good evening, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Okay, fine.
Dominic ji.
Good evening, Vinay ji. Good evening.
Good evening, very good evening.
Hello, Lalita ma'am. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. Okay, fine. Lyra?
Yes, Anita.
Yeah, now it's 4:31. Shall we
Good.
begin the program?
Okay.
We can begin. Over to Sheetal.
No, over to Hiba.
Hiba, over to you.
Hiba is the compere for today's session. So Hiba will be doing the session. Yeah, Hiba, over to you.
Hiba, over to you.
Hiba. Yeah.
Opportunities don't happen, you create them. Hari Om, a fine good evening to one and all. Welcome to the talk on advertising on social media, analysis and the effect on brand value, organized by the YCC Club, PG Department of English, in association with IQAC Club of Chinmaya Arts and Science College for Women. Social media is a phenomenon that has drawn a lot of attention, both to companies and individuals interacting on the networking landscape. Social media has changed the traditional communication between brands and consumers and enabled consumers to make positive as well as negative influences on brand equity. Therefore, it is important for companies to know how to manage and communicate in social media, seeking to build brand equity by building the brand awareness and positive image for brand. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Sheetal PM, Secretary, YCC Club, for the invocation. Sheetal, over to you.
Sheetal, please unmute your mic, Sheetal.
Hari Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinamati Ma Vidushavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you, Sheetal. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Sheetal Pradeep, Vice President, YCC, for the welcome speech. Sheetal, over to you.
Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. Hari Om. A very good evening to all gathered here. On behalf of Chinmaya Arts and Science College, I would like to welcome you all to this occasion. The fragrance of flowers spreads only in the direction of the wind, but the goodness of a person spreads in all directions. Amidst us, we have such an inspiring personality, Mr. Dominic Savio, founder and managing director, Bus Stop Integrated Communications Private Limited. Sir, we are very fortunate to have you with us this evening. We extend an affable welcome to you, sir. The essence of great leadership is influence, not authority. With this note, I would like to welcome our principal, Dr. C.R. Lalita, to this program. We celebrate your leadership and you keep influencing us. Welcome, ma'am. It's my privilege to welcome the National President of PRCI, Dr. T. Vinay Kumar. Welcome, sir. With immense pleasure, I would like to welcome Mr. U.S. Kuti, National Secretary General of PRCI. Welcome, sir. I would also like to welcome Mr. Ramsi Menon, Director, YCC Kerala, who has always encouraged us to push our boundaries. Welcome, sir. Let me extend a warm welcome to the faculty coordinators and members of the other YCC chapters present here. Just as importantly, I would also like to welcome all the faculty members and students of our institution who have been a constant support for us. This is the first program after our inaugural ceremony, which makes it momentous for us. So I once again welcome all of you for gracing this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheetal. Now, I invite Dr. Vinay Kumar, the National President of PRCI, the first Malayali to become. He has 4 decades of experience in PR and advertising. He is also the Director, World Communicators Council, Vice President and Director, PRCI YCC Governing Council, co-founder and Senior Partner Guide, PR and Branding, Founder Secretary and Trustee, Pepper Creative Awards Trust. Sir, I welcome you to inaugurate the session.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening to all. Dr. Lalita, Principal, Lyra Lakshmanan, Faculty Coordinator, my good old friend Dominic Savio, US Kuti, Ramsi Menon, and all the faculty coordinators, students, office bearers of YCC, and friends. Today, we are having the first program of Chinmaya Arts and Science College for Women, Kannur, after the launching of the YCC. And I'm very happy to be here with all of you. The topic we have selected also is a very good one: advertising on the social media, analysis and the effect on brand value. According to Jeff Bezos, your brand is what other people say about you when you are not in the room. But in the present scenario, brand loyalty is all about delivering an outstanding product or service constantly. Both millennials and Gen Z are ready to pay extra for customer experience. Adobe says that for almost half of them, social media is the most relevant channel for searching new brands. When it comes to social media, there are enough opportunities and threats for brands. Social media is like a loudspeaker through which your customers, whether they are satisfied or dissatisfied, will share their experiences or opinions very loudly. According to Jeff Epstein, 71% of the customers who receive positive service experience are likely to recommend the company to others. But 92% of them changes their brand preference due to poor customer service. Most of the customers, more than 75% of them, expect a reply or assistance from the company within 1 hour of contacting them in the social media. Nowadays, most of the companies use social media as a tool to launch their product or service and also to interact with their customers, because it is contributing a lot in brand building of products and services. How many of us were aware brands like Oyo Rooms or Swiggy before 7 or 8 years? Because both of them were started in the 2013, 2014 years. But see how they became a part of our daily lives. That is the power of social media. Earlier, when Tatas or Birlas built their brand, it took them several years. Now it is very easy. The social media can also destroy your brand within no time. That is a threat I was talking about. This is the opportunity that is a threat. So social media is a very powerful tool, and if you don't know or if you properly not use it, that will damage your reputation and your entity. So today we have a very good resource person. In fact, the pioneer of the digital media and social media in Kerala. We all listened to him long back when we were all first hearing about social media and digital media. So such an experienced resource person today we are having, we are lucky. So I am not standing in between Dominic Savio, my friend, and you. Just one thing I would like to remind you is the Public Relations Council of India is celebrating its 15th Global Communication Conclave on 17th and 18th September at Goa. I request all of you to be part of that conclave because a lot of deliberations, a lot of panel discussions, a lot of speakers, good speakers, everything and entertainment, everything will be there for 2 days. It will a fun and education session. So we have special rates for delegate fees for the students. Mr. Ramsi Menon will give you all the details. I invite all of you to be a part of the Global Communication Conclave this year. With these words, with all your permission, I would like to declare this session open. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Next, we have Mr. U.S. Kutty, National Secretary General, PRCI. He's a PR and advertising professional with 40 years of illustrious career beginning with Saubhagya Advertising in Mumbai. Mr. U.S. Kutty has organized 800 plus press conferences for many public and private sector organizations and state government. He's one of the founder of Kochi Advertising Club and trustee of prestigious Pepper Awards. Sir, I invite you to speak a few words.
Thank you, Hiba. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you and very good afternoon to one and all the dignitaries of the Chinmaya College and also our National President, Dr. Vinay Kumar, our Ramsi Menon, our Director of YCC, and the speaker of the day, Mr. Dominic Savio, our old friend. Thank you so much for inviting me here to speak a few words and wish this program. So I'm sure what Mr. Vinay said, because we are all heard and we are all learned a lot of things from Mr. Dominic Savio about social media. So we are all old books, but even we are trying to do a lot of things in the new gen communication. So I'm sure he will definitely enlighten to all of us for the social media relevance and the topic, very good topic he has selected. So I wish all the success for this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to invite our faculty coordinator, Ms. Lyra Lakshman, to introduce the speaker for the day. Ma'am, over to you.
Hari Om. And warm good evening to one and all present here. It's my privilege to introduce the chief guest of the program, Mr. Dominic Savio. He is the founder and managing director of Bus Stop Integrated Communications Private Limited, a brand communications company based in Kochi. Before starting his own company, he was working with DDB Mudra Mumbai, one of India's premier advertising agencies, as its vice president. He has over 2 decades of experience in advertising and creative brand communications. In his long career, he has worked with many global networks like Interpublic Group and Omnicom. As a brand strategist and marketing communications thought leader, Mr. Dominic has been part of many integrated communications campaigns for Deshi and Videshi brands across categories like FMCG, F&B, banking and finance, tourism, fashion and lifestyle, healthcare, IT, electronics, retail, and media. He has worked with clients like P&G, Reliance, Godrej, Voltas, HCC, Electrolux, Rediff.com, Times of India, Civil Aviation, Mumbai Regional Congress Committee, Federal Bank, and AVT, to name a few. Mr. Savio began his career in advertising in Mumbai in the early 90s with Madison DMB&B, then went on to work with Lintas Group and later with DDB Mudra Group. He is also a rebranding specialist, and his brand makeover stories include refreshing facelift given to Federal Bank to change the perception of it from a farmer's bank to a modern tech-savvy private sector bank. The new corporate identity program for Anil Dhirubhai Ambani Group and championing the brand makeover of Evangelical Social Action Forum from a microfinance company to a small finance bank. These brand campaigns have won several prestigious Indian and international advertising awards, including Cannes, Spike, and Goa Fest, etc. He's a visiting faculty at few management institutes and colleges. We are very fortunate to have the opportunity to listen to a vibrant and dynamic professional in advertising. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. T. Vinay Kumar, our friends, U.S. Kuti, Ram, the Honorable Principal, Lara ma'am, and Sheetal and Hiba. Can someone just help me share my PPT? Give me access. Okay.
Hello,
Sir, it's already given, sir. It's already
Okay,
given.
I've got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. So this is the topic that my friend Ram has given to me that I must speak on: building valuable brand on social media. It's a very evolved subject, and it takes a number of days to mull over it. But what I've done is that I've just packaged a smaller version for all of us to spend few minutes on this. But I'll cover this in about 30 minutes, and then we can have a discussion. So if you look at social media, why is it more important today? I mean, that's a topic that most of us today discuss widely. Why is, and everybody, wherever we go, in smaller groups, micro groups, that people increasingly discussing on the impact of social media in today's communication, and the big changes that social media has brought in 2021, especially during the pandemic period, and the art of analytics. There are a lot of people talk about social media content and creativity being analyzed, the reach, etc. And what is the key takeout from this? I mean, that's what by and large this presentation would cover. There are decades where nothing happens, and then there are weeks where decades happen. I mean, that's what the best that we could sum up about social media, that we've been used to traditional media. Even today, I mean, many of us consume traditional media, but what happened in the traditional media, it took many years, but in social media, everything happens in every minute and things keep on changing. So therefore, in my opinion, and many people tend to believe that social media is a new mass media. It's no more the traditional media as a mass media, because larger number of people are consuming this medium. We're spending a lot of time on social media compared to the traditional mediums that we were, the TV, print, radio, all that. But social media, most of us really stay there. I mean, we dwell there. I mean, so therefore, this has become the mass media in terms of reach. And anything that you need to break now at this very moment, I mean, it is no other medium gives you that kind of a flexibility. So therefore, given the kind of people it has onboarded in this journey, I think social media is today the mass media. And when we say social means socialize. I mean, Dr. T. Vinay Kumar will know, because he's one of the best guys that I have seen. I mean, who's into so much of networking and socializing. So social media today, I mean, it is about why we calling it social is because it tend to that's what the primary objective of creating social media was, to become social, but it has become more business, and it got far more serious today. We don't meet many of our friends and people that we network with otherwise, but physically, but we keep meeting them every day, every minute on social media whenever we open different mediums that we consume. And especially in social media, it has become, if you notice, I mean, it has become less friendly a place. That's Dr. T. Vinay Kumar has spoken about earlier in his introductory speech. He has partially mentioned that point. So what we consume today is, especially in the last couple of, if we take a look at it, it is mostly the negative content. The only positive content that I have seen is about in the recent past that has overtaken the negativism. in social media is that the police, officer, Ani, right? Her name is. So that lady who got transferred from Trivandrum to Kochi, the police officer. I mean, that story, and in fact, in the recent past that I've seen, has overtaken so much of negative, stories. Otherwise, social media is, buzzing with a lot of negative content. I mean, you can check your own timeline, you will realize that whether what I'm saying is relative to you or not. So what is important in social media, therefore, is this is what I caught what Dr. Bill Benback has very famously said. Bill Benback is the founder of DDB, is the most respected advertising professional across the world. So he has said, as professional communicators, we are all shapers of society. We can vulgarize it, we can brutalize it, or we can lift it to a higher level. I think from anybody who's engaged with the profession of communication, or anybody who is in the business of communicating, even ordinary people who are on social media, who's in fact all receiving and disseminating a lot of stuff that we receive, we tend to come and share, like a lot of things. But if we be a little bit cautious about whether what we are sharing is very, what can be consumed socially is a judicious call every individual has to take, and it'll be something good to practice. And we in communication business, we try and stick to this, so that because we consider that consumers, when we say consumer, is a community that includes us, our family, our friends, everyone. So the responsible communication, therefore, something that we are very highly vocal about, and we advocate that. So we said we don't have a choice whether we are there on social media. Whether we are there on social media or you are there or not on social media, you are being discussed. Some people, I have seen some clients say that, I mean, do we need to really be there? Whether you are there or not, you are being discussed by others. So it is better to be there when you are being discussed. Like, I'm again going back to Dr. T. Vinayagumar has said that, people, it's about what people talk when you're not in the room, which is very, very correct. But it is better to join that room when you're not there. I mean, so therefore, it is better to be present on almost all the possible platforms that Brandy says. So you know what people are talking about you. When you know what people are talking about you, you can actually create a counter communication. And one thing that we have witnessed and noticed on social media is that whenever we say something, it is like the tides. I mean, it comes, with a bang, and then when you correct it, it actually goes back in the same way. It's like the waves of an ocean. So therefore, it is important that be there, hear what consumers are saying, and then because 90% of the consumers reach out to brands on social media. They come and look for brands. They come and search for information on certain products. So listen to your consumers and try and interpret that what they are seeking, and then get yourself prepared for act and react and monitor your own communication and propagate the kind of communication that you want to curate on social media space. So therefore, it is important and relevant to be on that page, because it is all about engaging your audience. How can we engage your audience creatively? In order to engage an audience, you need to have good creative content that we need to develop only. And we all know that, I mean, what is that? It's a typical human behavior that we all consume lots of information on social media. What excites us is not boring communication. Something that interesting comes, we immediately instantly want to share it with our friends. And then something more comes, we think, this can be shared with a larger group of people, and then we'll start sharing. So what is infusing you or inducing you to actually share those content is what that the amount of interest that content generates. Therefore, it has to be very, very engaging. So it is, in order to say, it is about entertaining content. So the only reason that we spend most of the time on social media, whether it is Facebook or Insta and all that, is because to entertain us. We are all seeking entertainment in smaller way. We enjoy seeing small reels and videos, and then we'll share it. So it is about entertaining. So brand also, when brand need to go on a social media platform, we must understand the characteristics of that platform. That platform is supposed to be, to provide entertainment content. So how can you infuse entertainment into your creative communication is what will touch a consumer and they will carry forward. And then, like, Dr. T. Vinayagumar has earlier mentioned, expect the unexpected. There are a lot of unexpected things happen. In the recent past, it's not that, it's also, sometimes something will break in the middle of the night. A brand manager's job today, especially after the social media has come, it has become a 24/7 job. You need to be alert. You need to have a back-end team that is working, a reputation management team that is working on the brand to be very, very, very alert. And you need to monitor brand. And there are plenty of listening tools are available. Each brand mentioned wherever it happens. I mean, you will know that who is mentioning your brand, who is talking about it. There are technologies available to you. But sometimes, you know, in the recent past, I mean, during the Euro Cup, that Ronaldo picked up that Coke bottle and he moved the Coke bottle. And then what happened? Around that, lot of Coca-Cola's valuation has gone down. Anyway, that share market will come and go. I mean, that's different. But the impact it created, and then how many people actually, a lot of people got creative about it. Thousands of people have got creative. There are a lot of famous people came. I just wanted to quickly take you through that, video. I mean, this is what Ronaldo did. He removed the Coke bottle, and then he used to be a brand ambassador for Coca-Cola for a very long time. But now in the recent past, I mean, he has been staying away from these kind of products. And then number of people that it followed, I mean, it sustained for over a week of period. I mean, there is our
Any Coke bottles there for me to move it?
Lot of funny content were created, and the more and more funny content that got created, a lot of people wanted to, join the bandwagon and do it. And there is Lukaku said, and then there is
that didn't go unnoticed by Scotland's John McGinn.
John McGinn said, he asked for, so it got a little funny. And back home, there are a lot of interesting content that got generated around it. So this is what happens when when you are on in social media, or whether you are there or not. You are when you are even in the mainline communication field, but your brand get into these kind of conflict and then come of it. How do you react? So here, Amul had a take on it. Amul always takes on topical issues, very cheeky one, and the best one was from Fevicol. Now bottle haregi, now evaluation haregi. I mean, that was very cheeky. So all this happens in social media. So if you're there, you can come on, you can take sportingly when something happens. I mean, you can't keep yourself quiet. You also need to join that. You can also, have a lighter take on it, or depending upon the situation, what it is. There are a number of brands, even before, I mean, Maggi noodles have got into troubles. There are a number of brands that have got into social media, bashing. So it is somewhere related to ambush marketing. You pick on your competition. If you remember this, I mean, long ago, I mean, it was not social media was very active. That Kingfisher and Jet Airways came up and said, we have changed it when they have changed the uniform, and Kingfisher had a take on it and that we have made them change. So back home in Trichur, when Jayalakshmi wanted to launch in Trichur, they had run a campaign saying, they ran a 3-ad campaign. They said, Sambhav Marijil Aishwarya Varunu. So it's about Aishwarya they're not saying Aishwarya Rai, they're not saying Katrina Kaif. They've cleverly used Aishwarya is coming to inaugurate it, Katrina is coming to inaugurate it, Karina is coming to inaugurate it. And this campaign went on, and people had a discussion about who is actually coming to inaugurate. Is it all 3 are coming, or if one of them would come? So that discussion started sprouting in among core groups in Trichur. That's when Kalyan came up and did an ad saying that Katrina, Karina, Aishwarya, Jayalakshmi, Arimarla. So it was a very nice cheeky take on it. I mean, so brands come and do this kind of stuff, and when it, in fact, I mean, this had a very terrible effect on Jayalakshmi. They had to, deviate from their originally planned launch to, another program altogether. I don't remember now, but that is how it was done many years back. So, and then conversation happens and conversation explodes. You can't shut people's mouth. I mean, they'll go on talking. So in social media space, all these things will come up. So you need to have a good reputation management team handling the increased armchair activism. Armchair activism is something that, we must learn this from politicians, because they are always on a day-to-day basis, they are faced with so much of issues, but they handle it so well, and it lasts for about a few days, sometimes a week long, but it comes back. So, and especially when there is an organized team, trying to, malign their image, they also recruit a professional team to handle the demand. This is something that brands with the characteristic of social media. This is something that brand needs to increasingly take on, because you also have competition, you also have people trying to tarnish your image. You can also win over people and make them your brand ambassadors, and make them vocal for you. Therefore, it is important that invest in a right reputation management team. It is not that one social media team managing your work. Social media team would able to strategize, create a campaign, then curate it on social media, promote it, and analyze that and come up and recommend. But what you also need is a right reputation management team when something goes wrong, or even if something is not going on wrong. I mean, you can actually curate a new trend on social media if you have the right team. They are listening to, using the listening tools and understanding what people are talking, what trends are currently developing. So therefore, how effectively that we could use. So it's important to have a brand to invest in a reputation management team. Earlier, we used to have a PR team. PR team is just issuing press releases or organizing some press meets or planting a story or a ghost article, all that we used to do with mainline media. But on social media today, these kind of crises could develop at any point in time, day or night, and you should have a team that is as a contingency plan ready to take on such kind of things. Another thing that we all focused on, mostly all the brand managers and custodians are interested in increasing the number of likes for a page. It is not about collecting the number of fans, but how effectively are you going to utilize your fans? How are you going to make them activate and make your brand spokesperson or work for your brand? That's the most difficult and a pretty interesting challenge for any brand manager to take on. So you have number of followers or fans to your team. How do you make them activate and work for you? That's the biggest challenge. So because in social media, what is important is that it allows you to co-create content for you. So if you have a good fan base, and if you can influence your fan base to create ideas for the brand, you can push them to it, and that's the best way to influence social media fans. And that's something that there are many brands have done, that there is a user generated content. I mean, the Lays and all that have interestingly done campaigns. Now they have used their brand ambassador to initiate and kick off this activity, but later on we saw an entire bunch of youngsters coming and doing this posting, and there are a lot of, I mean, there are a number of examples. There are also issues where it has actually went wrong. I have given you one example. I don't want to give more examples here, but there are the situation like this, that how do you onboard your hardcore fans to work for your brand? So that again depended on what content that we create. I mean, it's important what content that we create. Content is a bottleneck between the accumulated knowledge and related thinking. That you have so much information on your category, your competition, your brand, your consumer. But when you come to develop it, you need to apply the related thinking and come up with it. It has to be rooted strongly on strategy. And many people think it is content generation is easy. I remember, I'll show you one clip from one of the old Mohanlal's movie, where the Mohanlal approaches an advertising agency to create content. I mean, that's what most people think, that creating content is. It's not as easy as that. It's more difficult than this job.
നമ്മുടെ ക്യാപ്ഷൻ ആയിരിക്കും എഴുതിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഇവിടെ തല പോഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുമ്പോഴാ ക്യാപ്ഷനും ഇല്ല, ഒരു മണ്ണാൻ കട്ടയില്ല. എന്താ പറഞ്ഞത്? നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇപ്പൊ ക്യാപ്ഷൻ തരാൻ മനസ്സില്ലാന്ന്. ക്യാപ്ഷൻ തരാൻ മനസ്സില്ലെന്ന്? ഇല്ല. ഒരു വലിയ അഡ്വർടൈസിംഗ് കമ്പനി ഫാനും എ സി ഒക്കെ വെച്ച് അങ്ങനെ വില ചെയ്തിരിക്കാൻ നാളെ ഇല്ലല്ലോ. ഞാനങ്ങനെ വിടുമെന്നൊന്നും കരുതണ്ട. ക്യാപ്ഷൻ കിട്ടുന്നവരെ നിങ്ങൾ എവിടെ പോയാലും അവിടെയൊക്കെ ഞാനുണ്ടാവും. Wherever you go, I will be there. എന്താ പറഞ്ഞേ? Wherever you go. Tell me. Wherever you go, I am there. Wherever you go, I am there.
Fortunately, this is not how content we create, or the copywriters or content crunchers that we call it. There are content writers, there are content crunchers, because you write so much and you need to reduce it, because social media, the content consumption is very limited. So you also need to write, you need to create an exciting content. You need to have nice, beautiful lines to infuse or induce a person, or you need to have a promise or a benefit or a shocking element into that. And then you also need to crunch it in such a way that, I mean, that it's not more. So it's a very, very difficult job for a content writer to come up with interesting, creative content. It's not something like this. So I would say it is a content curator is nothing less than an activist, because what the job of a content creator is to create introduce a behavior shift in a consumer. If it is about influencing a behavior shift in a consumer, your content need to have creative enough. So therefore, a content creator, in my opinion, is someone not less than an activist, to influence human being. Because here in social media, it is not about the channels or programs that we buy. It is about people that we buy. Every individual is a media today. Every person walking on the street with a smartphone is a media. Therefore, how do you buy that person? How do you make that person to like your content or comment on your content or share on your content? So every brand that advertise or be on social media is to catch, decide, or targeted audience. You have a defined segment of audience that you need to reach out to. Those segment of people that you need to onboard. So it is about buying people and not more about channels or programs. Therefore, it becomes far more difficult task in social media to create content, because social media also has a very, content happens and then immediately something else comes up and interest keeps shifting. So within a fraction of, seconds or minutes or hours, that people's interest keeps shifting. So brands need to come up with the relevant content that can have an impact within that short span of time. And that's far more challenging job. And also it's a very loose statement that we hear mostly when people talk about that content is king. It is not that, every content is king. Also people say that, customer is king, content is king, the community is king. The king is fixed on to a lot of these words, but it is, what is important is that when you write a creative content is the real emperor. It's not the every content. Every content, if you consider as a king, it will not work. What is exciting? There are hundred thousands of content is being generated every minute. So what is exciting is if it is creative enough, it will hook the people. Otherwise, you will create a kingdom of trash. That's what generally happens. And people buy benefits. People buy brands. So when, more importantly, people buy benefits. They definitely buy a brand, but more importantly, what brands do is that brands package that benefits interestingly. So when people are actually seeking, the benefits, it needs to instantly appeal to them. In traditional media, you have the time bandwidth, and social media, you don't get that. And you also, more importantly, here you need to deliver certain experiences, and people are loyal to experiences. What kind of a lasting experience? There are different experiences, right from the time, if you're on e-commerce, to give you an example, from the time you order to the time that product arrives, when you open it, even packaging could go wrong. So how could you, ensure those, while, and something happens and immediately today everybody has a weapon, they'll click a picture and immediately post it, and how do you react to it? Your team need to be trained to handle all this and to ensure that how a beautiful experience that we can deliver to the consumer. And brands are not built in this marketplace. It is built in the mental terrain. That's where the most of the brand battles takes place. So how do you place your brand in a consumer's consideration set or in the mind space is a task that communication need to meet. It's very relevant in even traditional communication or social media, but how do you occupy a consumer's mind space and influence him is what we need to do. And there are today, the one trend that we see is that we find a lot of micro nano influence. Earlier, when we used to take a celebrity, there is so much of, check and recheck is to go. So for example, suppose you want to take Salman Khan, no brands will come forward and touch Salman Khan, because Salman Khan gives an imagery of a heartless hunter due to that black buck hunting case. But on the contrary, Amitabh Bachchan comes with integrity, a lot of other values, and anybody wanted to have those values passed on to your brand. So when you take an influencer, when you take a celebrity, we need to look at it. It's not, I'll just give you one example. There are many hundreds of checks that we need to do into whether that celebrity would fit in with the influencer, would fit in with the brand. Will it gel? Will it work? Wouldn't it work? All those things. But today, one trend that we have seen is that there are social media has got a lot of superstars, a lot of mini superstars, a lot of influencers with a lot of followers on social media. And most brands, because celebrities are expensive, try to onboard smaller, or micro or nano influencers for your brand. They will have 50,000 followers or 1 lakh or 2 lakh. You bought you that, but that person how responsibly handles, or will it have any negative impact? Nobody seriously looks at it. It's something that while we are managing social media, when you are hiring or engaging an influencer, it is important that we must look at the personality and what impact it will have on the brand. Something that is seriously thought and need to analyze. To give you an example, this is MG Motors. He's a powerful influencer. He had taken a vehicle on a drive. Then he posted some positive comment. The next thing that he did was that he has taken that onto an off-road and came up with a bad review. So actually the brand is actually interested in with a vehicle to give him to get a positive comment, but he came up with a negative comment because there are some issues that he and the company had. So these kind of things will actually push the brand into greater trouble, and this was widely discussed to cite an example. So what is important, therefore, is that there are no arbitrary calls. You need to bring your people into a strategy room, whether it is creative or the technical guys. It has to be strongly mounted on a strategic platform, whatever we do for the brand, because it is in the public domain. Whatever ideas that we generate has to be strategically rooted. If it is not strategically rooted, these kind of issues could crop up. And then we'll hunt down and get a lot of insight, because communication has to be mounted strongly on consumer insight. If any campaign that it is, or any ad or any single post or whatever, if it is not strongly mounted on deeper consumer insight, it will have no impact in the consumer's mind space. So that's something. So it is about the job of a communicator or a creator is to look for interesting consumer insight on which you can actually build a brand. This is an example that I wanted to give you. So when ESOP Small Finance Bank, when they were launching, the first time in the history of advertising, a feature film was reproduced for the promotion of a brand. It's never done in the world, anywhere in the world. So we all know that Kadavaryumbol movie, which is pretty famous movie in Malayalam, originally created in Malayalam. Then because of the popularity of that movie, it got remade in Tamil Nadu with Rajinikanth and Andhra, and then with Shah Rukh Khan and Irfan Khan in Hindi. So that's the popularity of that movie. So when we decided to make this movie, we actually scripted this movie as in this movie. I've seen that Srinivasan is actually looking for that, hunting for the revolving chair. In this movie, actually starts with Srinivasan actually owning the revolving chair. This movie is only for half an hour, but that movie has got all the characters, Mamukoya, Salim Kumar, Meena, all those people who acted in the movie was brought into it. It was shot at the same place where originally that movie was produced. The characters are same, the story is same, but story has been given a different spin altogether. So that's how it was, and then it has got wider news coverage was received for this. This movie has wonderfully worked for the brand, because the audience, the core audience for this was the marginalized community, and the challenge was to bring them onto those unbanked community into banking. And we realized, when we looked at the consumer insight, we got a wonderful brief from client. They gave us such an inspiring brief. We all say that your creative product is only as good as your brief. So the brief has worked wonderfully well. Then we visited these consumers' houses, and we realized, when we looked at the consumers, we realized that these consumers, influencing them will become very difficult. So these kind of idea, because they come to the bank, they congregate there, they sit in these women when they have about half an hour, 45 minutes. So they look at this movie and they will understand, and we have beautifully integrated our products into this. And we know that, whether it is Christ or Krishna, they all, taught us through small parables. So parables have an impact. And in Drishyam movie, Mohanlal said the power of Drishyam. So that we have beautifully integrated into this, and I have got a case study, and I'll show you a small clip of that. It is available in YouTube.
വ്യത്യസ്തനാമൊരു പാർബറം ബാലനെ സത്യത്തിലാരും തിരിച്ചറിഞ്ഞില്ല. PhD ബാലൻ പുത്തൻ ബാങ്കിങ്ങിൽ PhD ബാലൻ വെറുമൊരു ബാർബറല്ലിവനൊരു ബാങ്കൻ ബാലൻ ഒരു ബാങ്കൻ അടിമുടിമായൻ ചെറുലോണിൻ കൊടുമുടിയാടൻ ജനമോടൽ നമ്മുടെ ബാലൻ 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 വ്യത്യസ്തനാമൊരു ബാർബറം ബാലനെ സത്യത്തിലാരും തിരിച്ചറിഞ്ഞില്ല.
The movie is often or it is available on YouTube. I mean, you can take a look at it. What, like I said, I mean, it is the first time in the world. So clients show a lot of belief and trust. They believed in this idea. So only with good clients that you could create good content. And I'll show you one small case study. It is 3 minutes. It will give you how it has impacted. If you have time, otherwise I'll play it at the end of this. So this is that case study I'll show you later. So, or I'll share it later. Social media, so it's about, it's not what you post in social media. You can post a lot of things, but whether it is being received rightly or it has been analyzed correctly, will it work? A lot of those questions need to be asked. I mean, it is about, sometimes what happens is you can create a lot of static posts. That static post also can be beautifully done into a smaller animation. It will sometimes work. To give you an example, so this is the same creative. That creative, when it is animated, it had a better impact. And the research says animated ad requires 30% fewer impressions than the static ones. So in terms of your media spend, you will spend lesser media. In terms of reach, you will get a far better reach. That's what happens when you have those kind of small. I mean, the guy who done this can also, you don't have to go to a big production house to get it done. It can be done in-house. So challenge here is, in order to create great advertising in the social media space, you need to curate a good team and you need to push your team into greater, make them available to all the resources to them in terms of a strategic team. You need to have the right tools to understand the consumer engagement. All that is important. It's not just about creating some post and just pushing it on the social media. It will go all over, but it will never reach the targeted audience and have the desired impact. We have something called the POEM strategy, which is called the paid on earned media. So initially for a brand to build a media space, you need to have paid media. Paid medium can slowly convert that into an earned medium. So you build up, it's called, how do you build a social asset? So you're starting off with your Facebook or Insta page and social page, or a period of time when it becomes, right amount of fan page, it'll start earning for you. So initially it will be a paid medium. So when you start off, you need to spend a lot of money, but as a brand, when you are in that, space for long, you will eventually spend lesser. Your funnel will become thinner. That's the beauty of social media and digital space, that it gives you a leverage. The more you are there and more fan base you have, you build your social media portals into or social media vehicles or platforms into a greater social media assets. Once it becomes an asset, it becomes an earning mediums for you. So but also you create a lot of clients also can create nicer content. How YouTube's and all that is actually earning money for people. But if you actually build right content and interesting content, it will become a money generating machine for you. And it's not on, a lot of people focus on how many fans we have, but more important than the fans, what kind of an audience growth that we have, what is the level of engagement that we can actually gravitate from social media, and how can you consistently have the engagement, maintain an engagement rate, and whether create interesting conversation around your brand rather than people just commenting. So there are a lot of these metrics that you need to creatively look at it and analyze this at the back end and come up with. Sometimes you will publish something and then you will analyze that and learn that what is working. So if in a week if you have about 5 posts, 3 of your posts must have done well. So analyze those, why those 3 posts have done well. In a month, I mean, if you take about your content that you pushed onto the social media, analyze which content has actually got you far more engagement, what has worked well for you, and then how can you make it work far better. So those kind of questions needs to be asked. So you need to have a proper, good strategy, creative team working as a co-creative team. You could come up with greater ideas. End of it, I mean, it is consumers who take you on a journey, because it is whatever you do in social media, consumers actually lead. You need to put something there, you need to engage them, you need to hook them, you need to make them your media. Every individual is a media. Every individual with a smartphone is actually a media. So how can you turn that person into, making your kite fly for you? I mean, that's a job that you need to do. And shoppers are willing to interact with brands and retailers through social media. There are a number of people, a number of research have said that, I mean, we are, willing to interact with the brand. We want to know more about the brand. We just don't come there only to get ourselves entertained. We also seek entertainment content from brand, and we need to know what brands and retailers are doing. So therefore, because it is news that they can use. How does a retailer's news is about a particular product promo or an offer is actually a news that you can use? You can buy that. So therefore, they are seeking, besides the interesting, engaging content or news, they're also seeking news that you can use. And far more important is, how do you target? We create good creative content. You push it onto social media. How are we targeting? There are two ways. There are a consumer. There is a known part of the consumer, and there is an unknown part of the consumer. Okay, the known part of the consumer is you can target a consumer through his name and postal address. Okay, you can target a consumer through his mobile phones. You can target a consumer through his email address. Then there is unknown part, which is we'll also target the consumer through the cookies. We'll target through his social IDs. Consumer has got several social IDs. So one individual can be targeted in a different ways, a different number of ways. IP address. There are also connected TV that you could target. And there are a number of words. And this spectrum is only growing. So for a consumer, you as a brand, you will touch the consumer at different points, at different intervals in a day. That you need to decide, or we need to decide, that how many times I want to touch this person in a day with my brand message, and what is the right time to touch a person at images. There are different times. In television, we call it the prime time is 7 p.m. in the evening, but in digital parlance, the prime time is 7 in the morning, because that's the time that an average Malayali wakes up and your hands reach out to the phone first. So if the most engagement happens, then there are also times that, 24 hours is also a prime time in digital, because there are different intervals people increase. So you will know that which product, which post has worked at what time band for you. And once we run a campaign for a month, we'll know what time band, which campaign has worked. We'll also have an idea about what kind of content is working with your audience, and what time of that content is actually delivering maximum reach. I mean, so there are a lot of those analytical part will work in the background, but you need to have a smarter targeting. Just generating a good content and pushing it on the social media alone will not help, but you need to have a great, and it gives, unlike a traditional medium where, we target the demographics and psychographics of the person and then blindly push, publish an ad in paper or TV. Here it gives you that how many times actually I've reached. If I wanted to reach Rahul, how many times I've reached Rahul, that kind of detail I will get. So that's the beauty of this. And then there are, there is a number of, there are certain legacy media too. Today it is a digital first media, so which all devices that uses. So we can smartly target all the devices, whether it is Oppo, whether it is Vivo, Apple, Samsung. You can individually target those devices beautifully. And so from a single channel to it is going to multiple channels. So earlier we used to do a post-campaign analysis. We used to have agencies working like Millward Brown and all that, giving you campaign results in terms of what has effectively worked for the brand. Today, I mean, real-time insights and optimized reports are easily available to you, because that's how the technology has grown. So whether your consumer has actually seen the ad, how many times he has seen the ad, and what was the reaction, all that can be, all those metrics are easily available to you. So it's a right mix of technology, creativity, and brighter media planning that works together for the brand. And these fast times actually calls for fast measurements, because consumers are actually quickly moving. I mean, their interest are fluctuating. Sometimes what happens is that a customer will add a particular product to cart and then suddenly he gets a call and he goes and the cart remains there. So you need to monitor what he has actually picked up and added to the cart when he's going to buy. So you know that you need to keep on following, reminding that person. So faster measurements are required in terms of where he's going. So it's about, in terms of what was there last evening is available to you this morning. So you don't have to wait for weeks and months to actually get those data. Those data are easily available to you, but you have a good analytical mind. And like I said, I mean, it is not just about the accumulated knowledge, but there is a related thinking that you need to apply to, filter those knowledge. And then impression versus bias. So how many times, the person has seen your ad, and then where is, so if he has seen the ad, then did he click the ad? So is she going to really buy that? So those kind of metrics really work. So this is something that you can, monitor in the background. There are different kinds of engagement. So there is strategists, there is analysts, there is researchers, there is social media managers, digital media managers, and then there are agencies that they house them. So it is about the brand intelligence in integration with the impression buyer ratio, monitoring what are the current trends that is happening, the teams that is working, the audience engagement level, what kind of influence. So there are a lot of things that you need to analyze in terms of social media. So social media is not just about, mostly what happens is that some clients will say, okay, engage an agency, create some post and put it in social media. It doesn't really work there. You'll be happy, okay, you're on Facebook, somebody has, or Instagram, your product or your communication is seen by somebody, or whether it is not seen by somebody, that information is not available to you. You're happy you're there. And one of your friends or employees will say, yes, sir, I have seen our product, ads are there. But whether it is working. So you need to really have a very good team that is working on the brand to give you a comprehensive report about whether it is actually delivering or not. Recently, a sample consumer dipstick that we have done during the pandemic period is that people said 50% they will avoid crowds and 43% said they will spend time in the physical stores because there are those people wanting to come out. And then 45% of them said, they'll spend time at home. So if you know this information is available, how will you, reach out to that particular audience and how will you create communications for them? Today, it is about the purchase decisions are impacted by multiple touch points. In the research, I said 50% of the consumers said that social media is the most influential in their purchasing decisions. So because they are always hooked onto the mobile, they are always seeing. So they are also engaging with the brand. Like I said, the ads are actually information they can actually use effectively. And consumers say coupons or discount codes are actually working. In the lockdown period, a lot of people have encashed. And the modern shopper is active across channels and is seeking, inspiration everywhere. And height of it, the top line is social media. Social media is 60%. So consumer is actually dwelling there. 60% of our consumers are on social media. So they are not on any other media or touch point. And 60% of consumers are willing to share personal information. A lot of people say data is not easy to get. Data is easy to get. Consumers are willing to share data because if it is beneficial to them. 59% of consumers would share their purchase data to receive personalized offers and discounts. That's why they give out their information. They go to the shop or they fill those details. And 52% of consumers feeling comfortable sharing. They are always comfortable to sharing data. And they're even willing to share, 59% of them are willing to share their location to get more offers and benefits. So consumers are evolving, consumers are changing, consumers are comfortable with social media. But brands have a responsibility to protect those data. It's a challenging thing. Consumers are concerned about it. And there are, in terms of, I do not know how my data is going to be used. There are those issues as well. But brands, how does a consumer trust a brand to share those information is dependent on your brand behavior on the social media space. If a brand behaves responsibly and come out as a genuine trusted brand, how do you establish that? Through your behavior in terms of your communication, the tonality that you adopt, the kind of communication that you push. And then people develop certain amount of respect for your brand, then they will freely dispense those information. But it is easy to get those information. Some people are cautious and concerned about it. But with data, brands can actually go further. And 2/3 of young shoppers are comfortable shopping and they plan to continue. So young shoppers are more comfortable online. They're easy to get products and they're ordering, and it is, number of deliveries have gone up. So in terms of creating a communication support, there are three key components to, so you need to have a strong strategic team, and a creative team. The execution team is also the technology team, because execution on team also need to analyze whether it is the desired results are getting. If these three works together, it is a consumer-led where consumer is actually going to lead your brand, because they will speak for you, they'll become your brand ambassador. But your creative has to be insight driven. It has to be strongly mounted on an deeper consumer insight. But you need to find what is the consumer insight that will ignite or influence a consumer. And that works in the faster world. We are living in a faster world, works to a connected world. I mean, that's by and large that we need to do. So from a customer who is aware, I mean, that is in the traditional media space too. Today, customer is actually leading the brand. Customer is actually working for the brand. Customer is pushing your content. Earlier, we used to have, a lot of data, and then direct mail and all those things used to happen, but it is more than the rich data. It is about the insights driven. From the data, some of your data that you get, what kind of a related thinking that you apply and come up with, deeper insights. Perfect to fast. I mean, today it's a faster world, and how could you push? And in a chaotic world, people are getting more connected. So how can you, connect your brand on different devices with different communities and people, and so that leveraged benefit that you get today. It's not about yesterday's strategies were built for today's media. It is not. Every case is different. There are no one size fits for all. Strategies keep on evolving and changing with the new media dynamics that is emerging in the marketplace. Social media is ever changing. Today's trend is not tomorrow's trend, or today's trend is not, the morning trend is not the evening trend. Things keep changing. So you need to have a constant, evolving strategy. You will have a long-term strategy, but you need to have, contingency plan and other strategies that needs to actually work and make the brand work. In a digital where opinion gets amplified just by, pressing the share button or liking the button, but that will not, unless and until brand create brand love. There is an interesting book called Love Marks, which actually talks about, the two things on which brands are built. Brands are built on love aspect, on the two axes, respect and love. So brand need to try and get it. Social media, unfortunately, in the fad space, a lot of things, smaller. This week's trend is not next week's trend. So that it's not that, you cannot sustain onto that for a very long time, but brands need to, in order to make consumers love your brand, there is a lot more work to be done in terms of how do you earn love and respect. This is a very evolved subject. I just put in this slide itself needs lots of explanation. So in order to just recap what we have just covered, there are a number of digital mediums. This is not the end here. There is online media, blog, we call it influencer media, digital media, social media. There is everything, but there is beyond. This media landscape is keep expanding, and new media is getting added every time. Unlike the traditional media, here media actually undergoes a large change. So what we discussed today is digital is the new mass media, and therefore we need to treat digital as a new mass media. Many a times what happens is that clients and brands are not considering digital as a mass media. It just so much of influence. It has got far more, better reach than our traditionally trusted newspapers and television. Because one example is that what television does not cover gets covered in social media, and it reach out to people, and it's a faster delivery. So it is a matter. Expect the unexpected. While you are on social media, you shouldn't just have a social media management team, but you should have a reputation management team to back you up. Where if you're going, flanking or a defensive or an offensive campaign, you need to have a good team in place. And social media is a co-creator. It's not that you as a brand create something. Consumer will take that and create something else. So you should be prepared for it. I mean, so when we create content, there could also be similar content coming from the other side. Earlier it used to be, when you say something, consumer commenting. It's not just alone. Consumer will take your content and create something else. So to have a team to handle it. And every content is not king, because that will only create kingdom of trash. You need to have a creative content. Creative content will make your brand an emperor. And to have an effective strategic roadmap is essential. Your brand need to have a longer strategic point of view, and that strategies need to be revisited. We need to relook at it. We need to strongly place or base or your communication on those strategy. And smarter targeting is important, not just pushing the content. You need to have, social media gives you that flexibility to, analyze your and come up with this, what kind of a target audience is the right fit for you, and whether how many times I can reach a person, what day, what time I can reach a person, when is the right time to catch that person. Those kind of informations are easily available to us, the most effective. Analytics is a key, because it is how do you analyze the data that you have accumulated plays a role. But it is not just technology alone. Creativity plays an important role. That's why creative agencies will thrive, because technology can never replace creativity. Technology is available to you, but how creatively you use that platform, or how you use that idea, or come up with a creatively brilliant idea to empower your campaign is what will work for you. That's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, sir, for your informative words. Now, this session is open to queries. Those of you who are having any doubts, please post in the comment box or unmute and speak.
No comment, it is. Thank you.
Sir, what are some general tips for social media success?
General tip for? I've given you a lot of tips there how to, in terms of what you need to do in terms of marketing or promoting your brand. Told you about, you need to have good creative content. You need to have smarter targeting. If you're using influencers, you need to wisely choose influencers. Those are the few rules.
So, how should companies measure their social media marketing success?
There are a number of tools are available to your social media measurements, not just one. So you need to invest in those tools, buy those tools, and then work with those tools.
Sir, good evening, sir. Sir, what are the best social medias for small-scale business people in India?
Best is the largest medium. It's again very target-driven. Okay, so if you are talking about younger audience, women, and all that, is Instagram would work for you. But if it is a very large audience, mass, then Facebook is the right medium. Every social, like, why do you? It's like how whether you use Vanida or Malayalam Manorama. So every medium has a role. It's not just that what is the best medium, depending on what is the SME. That SME is about fashion, then what will work? If that SME is into some engineering product, what will work? It depends. So media choices again is, there are no fixed answers. There are no one size fits all. There are all, depending upon, I say, a lot of those, it all lead from a briefing. What is the role? What is the communication objective? It all stems from there. So there is no ready-made answer for it. But if you ask me, the wider media is Facebook.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
What is the biggest mistake to avoid in marketing?
Biggest mistake to avoid is being casual with the brand. You need to take brand very seriously. Mistake is going there without a strategy. Also, there are a lot of things. I mean, get into stepping onto controversial subject. There are many things that could actually backfire for you.
Okay, so thank you.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Sir, what is the impact of social media on marketing?
Good question. So impact of social media on marketing is today, it can actually deliver greater results. It can reach out to a very well-defined audience. I mean, if you have defined your audience very clearly, you can, with a guarantee that you can say how many times that I have reached out to my consumer and where is my consumer going. You can track your consumer, you can follow your consumer. So the marketing, it gives you a greater flexibility compared to traditional medium. Traditional medium is you define the audience, you will target for certain GRPs in television or certain OTS in print, and then you go for it. But in digital medium, you target audience is very well defined. It gives you the flexibility to reach the consumer at the right time, at the right mindset. So it gives a greater value addition. And a lot of brands, national brands, are in fact spending more than 50% of their money in digital because of this.
Thank you, sir.
Any more questions?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Mr. Ramsi Menon, Director, YCC Kerala. He's a postgraduate in marketing management and marketing communication with professional exposure to advertising, sales, and marketing. He co-founded Kerala's first professional event management and wedding planning company, Impresario, in 1995. Co-founded Impress PR in 2010. Resource person to management and mass communication, educational institutions, and knowledge specialist in syllabus updating team to educational institutions. Sir, over to you.
I think Ram is not there. Ram sent me a message saying that he's going to hospital to take his mother. So
okay, then we'll proceed with the vote of thanks, sir.
Please.
I would like to invite Ms. Swati Manohar, President YCC, Chinmaya Chapter, for the vote of thanks.
Hari Om. Good evening. It is my honor to propose a vote of thanks for the first webinar that is being conducted by our college. First of all, I would like to thank the Almighty for making this event successful. I am profusely elated to take this opportunity to thank the speaker of the event, Mr. Dominic Savio, founder and managing director, Bus Stop Integrated Communications, for sparing your valuable time to be with us and inspiring us with your thoughts on advertising on social media, analysis and effect on brand value. Your ideologies definitely made an impact on us. I can't imagine all the work you might have put into for this webinar. Thank you, sir. A special gratitude to Dr. T. Vinay Kumar, National President PRCI, and Mr. U.S. Kuti, National Secretary General PRCI, for all your constant presence and blessings. We are greatly indebted to all other faculty members and coordinators from different YCC wings for sharing your well wishes. On behalf of Chinmaya Arts and Science College, I express a heartfelt thanks to all of you for your well wishes. And I especially want to thank Anita ma'am, HOD Computer Applications, for all the technical support you have provided us. Thank you, ma'am. Finally, my thanks to our principal, teachers, and my friends for being there with us and motivating and supporting us. I once again thank each and everyone here and making this event successful. Thank you all.
Thank you, Swati. All of us do not have equal talents, but all of us have an equal opportunity to develop our talents. These are the words of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the 11th President of India. So let's take this opportunity to build ourselves. Thank you, and may the force be with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.